Hey everyone, welcome back to Mini Bike Mike's Garage. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you guys, I really do enjoy getting your comments and chatting with you guys and kind of going back and forth. And today's video is, I got a couple things going on. One, I've had, I don't know, 3 or 4 subscribers that have reached out to me and have said, hey, you do this on such a regular basis, all this stuff, you can do it in your sleep. It just comes natural to you. You know where to get the parts. You know if they need any modifications, what they need to do, and so forth. Well, I had subscriber Bart reach out to me from Idaho. Bart, I appreciate it. And he says, hey, Mike, is there any way you can do a video and maybe do a little more deep dive and in-depth video of showing exactly what parts you use, where you got them, provide some links and those sort of things. Now, I did do a video about 3 or 4 years ago where I took a CT70 K1 and I kind of did it was a long video and I basically tried to detail everything I did to that bike just to swap it over from the original 72cc engine to like a Life-in 125. So this video, I'm actually going to do even a little more deeper dive. Every year at the end of April, I host a subscriber ride. I call it the spring ride. And like I said, we do it at the end of April. You guys come in who want to, subscribers who watch the channel. You come to my shop and we go on about 100-mile loop ride and just have a great time. We have a bike night the night before and so forth. I have not advertised it yet or put out a date yet. I haven't hammered out some details. That's to come. But for that spring ride, I always like to build a new bike and to ride in the ride. And I have chosen this Honda CT70 K3 to build for the spring ride. Now, if you're not familiar with this bike, I'll put a video in the links, give you all the details you want to know, where this bike came from and how I became in possession of it. Well, I want to completely disassemble this bike and build it back up and make a very dependable street rider out of it. It's not going to be restored. I'll be using a mix of Bart Moto parts, Trail Buddy parts, eBay, Amazon. I mean, you see I've got a table where the stuff's sitting over there. And it's not going to be 100% correct for a K3 model. I'll be mixing and matching stuff. I'm just not a purist. I want something that is fun to ride. So as you watch the video, hopefully you guys can pick and choose what information that you deem informational for you to help you with your build. But really more, this whole video, it's probably going to be 2 videos, to be quite honest with you. I don't think I want to make it such a long one that it's all, this is going to be a detailed process. But hopefully it's just entertainment for you. All right, quick jabbering. Let's get to work. The first thing I need to do is completely disassemble this bike. So I want to clean up the frame. I'm not going to paint it, not going to change the decals, but it is dirty. And I just want to clean up some parts so we have a nice clean base to start on. Well, there you go. That is the aftermath of tearing the bike completely apart. That took me about 25 minutes or so to get it all torn apart. I still want to take the steering stem out here because I'm going to guess this still has all the loose ball bearings, and I've got a Bart Moto kit here that has the little roller bearings. So that's what I'm going to put in there and swap it from those loose ones. We're supposed to have 42 of them, 21 up, 21 down. Come off of there. How'd that one get on top of the race part? All right. So I'll get a magnet, dig all those out, and then we have to knock out the races for these and then put the races for that other bearing kit. This might get noisy, sorry. Almost there. So that, we've got to knock out that type of race. Now I've got to turn it over and do the same thing up here. I'm gonna try to do it this way without busting a knuckle. There we go. So that's the top and bottom race. And then there is also a race that I have to try and get off of the bottom of the stem here. So, well, I thought it was. Maybe I need to take some of the paint off of that before I can get it to slide off of there. But anyway, I've got to slide that one off of there. I actually just sprayed this with some WD-40. There's a little step right there. And once you get it past that step, then it just slides right off. But sprayed it with some WD-40 and kind of twisted a little bit, and it just slid right off, actually. So now I'm good. Ready to assemble this front end. Again, I'm using the Bart Moto bearing kit that I got. Now, you'll need to know that there are two different size bearings. I don't know if it's going to show up on film, but the one here on the left has a larger diameter on the inside. And that's because this stem has a couple different steps down it. So as you see, this bearing will fall all the way down to the very bottom, where this one will only fall to about right there where that little step is right there, okay? I think the bearing races are identical, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not, these bearings were in these races in the package, so that's where I'm going to leave them. I've got the frame upside down, so that is the bottom race. All right, I'm just going to set it in there, and I'm going to use a rubber or plastic or good. All right, so we're going to flip it over and do the exact same thing to the other side and put the bearing in over there. And that one seats just about, it seats just perfect when it's about flush with the top right here. Mine is sticking up just ever so slightly. Clean this mess up, and then we will move to the next thing. Next, probably, I think I want to get the rims and wheels and hubs all put together next. Well, I decided to back up, and before I assemble the tires and the rims and the hubs and all that, I go ahead and put the forks and the swing arm on so that I can have something to mount the tires to. Well, if you saw the first videos when I first got this bike, you might know that someone has drilled out this steering stem and to fit different forks. The bike had SL70 forks on it when I got it, which are 27 millimeter, and standard CT70 forks are only 25 millimeter. So to get the SL70 forks in there, they drilled these holes out bigger, which means I can't really go back down to CT70 forks. So I happen to have a pair of brand new, I think these came from TB Parts. I'll try and put a link in the description of the video. These are brand new SL70 forks. Now they are the newer style. They're like kind of like the Ice Bear Champions and so forth use, in that the top here, nothing can drain into, it's sealed. No oil can come out. This piece, oh, it's not focusing on it. This piece would have to come out for any oil to come out. So it's ready to go. You just thread a bolt down in there. Well, I've run into a bit of an issue. I'm gonna go ahead and share it with you guys. So this was the top clamp that was on the bike when I got the bike. And if you look at this, it fits on there really, really well. Well, this is the bolt that came. Give me just a second here. This is the bolt that comes with the forks. Sorry, I'm not really. You guys just get to see all the struggles today. This bolt is shouldered, and it must be meant to fit a different, that is as far in as I can get the bolt, and I've got that. So I thought, no big deal. I had other M10 by 1.25 bolts, so I just took, regular shorter bolts that don't have that shoulder or that step on it. And I can put that on there, and then put this on there, and it'll work just fine. So I thought, great, now I'm ready to go. Well, I grabbed the clamp that's going to hold the handlebars. If you remember, this bike didn't have one of these. It had those real tall risers. So this is just a generic Chinese, clamp that you can buy off of eBay or Amazon. And unfortunately, the bolt spread is not the same, and it won't go on the clamp, this top plate that was on the bike. So I happen to have another clamp. I think I got this from Bart Moto. Perfect, it fits on there. Man, we are in business. So then I go to put it on here. There's a difference between these. If you'll notice, this is the clamp that was on the bike. And see how it's got that big washer looking thing that's attached to it? Well, this one doesn't have it. And so this is thinner. And unfortunately, when I set that on there, well, that sticks up above the plate, and there's no way to tighten and bolt down onto it. So I think what I'm going to do is go back. I tried to find a washer or something that would fit over that and inside this, and don't really have it. I might be able to pry the one out of the clamp there, the top plate that I have, but I'm not going to do that. I think I'm just going to set that in there, cut down this to where it's flush with this plate, and then bolt it all together. All right, so after having to back up and punt a couple different times here, I think maybe I'm ready to put these forks in. Now, there is a brake stay on one of them, so it goes on the left side of the bike. Now, these will have to come back off because I need to put my headlight ears, but Or actually, I can just take the top clamp off and slide it down, I guess. But I just want to make sure everything is going to line up right. Okay, there's that one. That's not too bad. I should have maybe greased that. That's not too bad. All right. That's what I was afraid of. That this clamp was a different, or this top plate was a different width there. If something's bent, that's way off. Huh. You know, when I got the bike, the steering was kind of, I just thought it was the handlebars. I don't know how that could possibly be bent. You know what it is? They don't have the holes drilled straight. And the fork, haha, that's what it is. Whoever drilled out this steering stem, I bet didn't get that drilled straight. And I think, so it's kicking this off to the side. I'm afraid if I put it in too much of a bind, then it might not cycle. I don't know. Well, since I'm working on the front end, I decided to let's just stay up front. And I've got a speedometer from looks like maybe a K1. It's not actually for a K3, but there again, I'm not trying to keep this 100% correct, but I do like to have the correct, it looks correct enough. But here I go again, you know, mixing these Chinese aftermarket parts with original parts. Not the same bolt spread. You know, that's what we ran into with that clamp. Now, yes, I would use all the correct parts if I had them, but I don't have them, or they're already on other bikes. I'm trying to use what I have over there in the parts bin, and this is what I've got. So I think it might be easy enough. Since that's not quite the right bolt spread, why can't we just cut that and rotate it in? I'll make sure it's on the speedometer when I do that. And then if we want to, we can weld it back together. Might not even need to do that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take and cut this right here, maybe cut out just a little sliver. And that way, it's basically two separate pieces, and I can get those to line up. All right, I'm going to go out to the shop. I will be right back. I'm going to cut that right there in half. All right, so now that I've buzzed that into two different pieces, let's see what we've got here. And I know a lot of you probably think, man, why are you going to all that work? I don't know. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun, actually. Figuring out how to get things to work when they're not supposed to work. Oh no, I got plenty. Oh yeah, look at that. Perfection. So I'll bolt that. I may clean this up a little bit. I'll take the speedometer off of it, bolt the bracket there. No, I want the speedometer to be on there because I don't want to weld it and this spread be wrong. I cut that back a little too much. You know, it might not even need to be welded. I don't know. It probably doesn't. You know, I don't even think I'm going to. I think once we tighten this all up, yeah, I may. Yeah, it's still. Of course, I haven't got those really tight either, but awesome. And that lets us use the stock style speedometer. All right, so I need to take it all back apart because now I need to take the speedometer apart. And I tighten those so tight I can't get them loose. I need to take the speedometer apart so we can replace the bulbs to 12 volt and then just clean it up and paint it and do the things we need to do. I did go ahead and weld that together and get it all in one piece, so I'll throw some paint on that. I still have to take the speedometer apart and get it cleaned up. I need to pull the wiring to change bulbs to 12 volt. You have to, there's a couple nuts that hold another plate on. There we go. Come off there. I've already checked the speedometer and it does function the way it's supposed to, so that's good. We do have a little bit of a bend right here, so I'll work on straightening that up a little bit also. Clean that up. Now, getting these out of here sometimes without ruining the socket can be tough. Oh, that thing's going to come right out. Oh, come on. That's good. 2 for 3. Come on. Let's get the last one. All right. So this particular speedometer has a neutral indicator, a high beam indicator, and then the total illumination for the speedometer. It looks like every one of the 6 volt bulbs are burnt out. So they're trash. All right, I use a 1445 bulb, which is the 12 volt. Oh, look at that, just happened to have 3 left in here, so. And then we're gonna test it here before we start working on cleaning some things up. Okay. The wire's kind of separated out here. Okay. So we've got the high beam indicator has a blue wire and a green wire, which there are 2 greens. We don't know which one it's going to be. I use a really old school type battery charger that does not need to sense voltage to spark. So let's see. So that's, I've got it on one of the greens. That's, no, that didn't light up. So that must be just the illumination. Let's hope this works. Oh, it doesn't. Come on. No? Neither one of them you lit up, huh? Oh, there it goes, there it goes. We just weren't making a good connection. There we go. So that's the high beam indicator. So that works. Oh, my ground is not all that great. Okay, there's that one. So now if we go to the other ground, and we get a good connection, we should be able to go to this red and brown one and get this illumination light. And we did. So that's when you turn your headlights on, that will light up the speedometer itself. All right, and then the last 2 wires are the neutral indicator. Red is power to it, and then if we hit ground, so the neutral indicator. So all the bulbs work, everything, all the wiring is in good shape, so I'll clean that up and get that put into, get this cleaned up, put it all back together. But I need to, this little rubber piece, I need to clean this up. I want to probably, it's supposed to be chrome. We'll see how it cleans up. If not, I paint them silver sometimes. Let's take that off. So, all right, so I'm going to go back and hit this with a wire wheel, see how it cleans up, and then decide if I need to take that off and paint it or not. little bit of steel wool, and I'm happy with how it turned out. That's good enough for me. Should put you there. You go. Get in there. Well, why are you not going? Two of them popped right in. That one's acting like it wants to be difficult. What in the world? Boy, today has been a struggle, fellas. Seems like everything I've touched is not going the right way. All right. I think it's in there now. Does that go like that? Is that how that goes? That goes on there. Rolled that off. Should have waited before I put that on there, I guess. I don't know. All right. You know what? I should really do this, or I should go clean those old rusty looking nuts up, even though they're not really visible. I'll be right back. If we're going to do it, let's take just 3 more seconds and go do it right. Nope, I didn't even clean those up. I realized I have a ton of these 5mm nuts. So I just grabbed a few new ones. Uh-oh. Well, that doesn't sound, that's not feeling right. There we go. Okay, so now we need to go see if the bracket that I fabricated or modified, see if the paint is dry on that, and then put all this together. All right, yep, so that's going to work. All right, let's set that up on the top clamp up there and see if it'll all bolt together. Hey guys, well, I'm back in the shop today. It's actually been a few days. We got about 12 inches of snow a few days ago, and I have been working through that at the house and so forth, but I'm back in the shop today. I happened to go in the bathroom, and I was coming out of the bathroom. I noticed that these forks do not look correct to me. You know, we had a lot of trouble getting this top bolt to line up after we had put this one in. And what I'm guessing is that whoever drilled out this lower steering stem right here, I don't think they drilled the holes parallel to each other. It looks like to me this fork is running this way, you know, that the front is forward and the back and the bottom is back. And it may even be a combination of this one's this way and this one's the other way. I'm not really sure. I actually have another one of these lower stems in the same exact color, but I kind of like to see if I can get this one to work. So I'm going to take a drill and see if I'm going to take the forks back out and see if I can't tweak those just a little bit to get those to go up in there, mount, not be loose here, but not be in a bind. I don't know. It's, you know, it's not really right the way it is, so I can't really mess it up, right? So I should probably take it out, take it to a machine shop, have somebody do it right, but yeah, I'm going to see if I can fix it here. Now, I realize most of you probably think I was crazy for doing this, but I actually think I've got it pretty close. The top clamp now fits on here without really having to stress or do anything. Let me bring you in. I want to kind of show you what I did here. I've got an axle bolt, and an axle bolt runs through it with no issues, no binding or anything. It looks a lot straighter. So it actually wound up being the other fork was the one that I had to tweak the most. I think it was the one that was out of line. Let me bring you in so you can see this top clamp, and I'll kind of show you, how I went about it and what I figured out and what I did to try and fix it. Before I just started drilling and, making a mistake of, doing the wrong fork, I took the handlebars off and everything, excuse me, and I set this top clamp on here. Now this top clamp, this hole here, there is a very distinct ridge that it needs to fit on right there, okay? And so I sat it on there, and when I sat it on there, I realized this fork lined up immediately with the hole. But this fork over here was about, I don't know, it was 1/8 of an inch off or so. I really had to tweak it to get it to reach this hole over here. So I wound up kind of tapering. I took a smaller drill bit than what the hole is down there, and I kind of, worked on it a little bit, chewed on it, and I got it to where this is now the right distance. Before, when I set it and just tried to get this hole and this hole to line up, it wouldn't go. It was too far off. I had to move it. But now it sits right on there. It sits right on this one. You do have to kind of move it a little bit to get them to both, but I think it's going to be close enough that we aren't going to have any issues. So I am now ready to try and put all this back together and finally be done with this front end. I'm going to go ahead and continue to put the front end together. I've got the tire and rim halves and all that stuff laying here. I want to try and get this thing up into a roller before this video ends, and I have found that it's easier to go ahead and put the fenders on before you try and get before you put the rims and tires and so forth on. This fender that I'm putting on here was the original fender that was on the bike when I got the bike. And this horn, I'll put a link in the description. It's a 6-volt horn that came off of eBay. And I know you're going to say, well, Mike, you're putting a 12-volt engine in it. Why are you using a 6-volt horn? They work great. I think they actually sound better than the 12-volt horns do. So that's why I go with that. You can actually buy a silver version of it also. It's a few dollars more expensive. This one I had so many black accents that I was going to use. That's why I went with black on this one. The horn has captured nuts on it, and that's actually it. You need the horn, unless you put a nut there, I guess, to hold the fender in place. So, all right, let's jump on. You can't see it, but let's move down. Let's put this rim and tire together. For the front tire, hub, and rim package, everything you see here basically came from Bart Moto. I went with the Kenda 120 by 90-10 tires. Big tires, bigger than the stock 4x10s. I don't know, why did I choose these? One, they're way cheaper than the Bridgestone Trail Wings, the 4x10s. They're much cheaper, and then they actually make the bikes a little taller because they are a larger diameter, so you feel like you're riding a little bit bigger bike. These are, I think that says these are the Kenda 761s. There'll be a link to all of this in the description of this video, so if you're interested in these, want to go over and look at them. Let's see, they do have a particular drive direction, and so this one's going to go this way. I like to have my valve stem come off the opposite side from the brake, so I want the valve stem on this side. It looks like on this tube that it's kind of leaning this way, so we'll put it on this side. Gotta get it in there. Now, I don't know. Some people say that, like that dot right there, if you can see that on the screen, that's where you put your valve stem. I don't know if that's 100% correct or not, but I tend to do that. Wherever that, line that dot up right here with, that's where your valve stem goes. So I want the valve stem to come out on this side. So, yep, this is the right one. One of these rim halves has a hole for the valve stem. The other one does not. Now, I like these rims. They're the aluminum rims. They're wider. I should have shown it before I stuck that in there. These are 3.5 inches wide when you put them together, where the stock CT70 steel rims are only 2 3/4. You can get this tire on the stock rims, but man, when it comes time to bolt them together, you gotta like clamp it because they're way far apart because this tire is so much thicker than the stock. But with these rims, you don't have to do that with that extra width. You got to make sure you get there's 2 different size bolt holes, so make sure you get those lined up correctly. That looks pretty good, I think. I think we can get it from there. But as you can see, they just come right together, so they're much easier to bolt together. This is a bolt kit from Bart Moto. And I'll, again, link in the description. It's got all the bolts for both front and rear for bolting the rim halves together, and then the bolts that bolt the rims to the hub. So I didn't take the time to take all these apart. So give me a minute. I'm going to take all these nuts and bolts, these small ones apart, and get them put in place. I don't know if there's a particular direction, you know, that they need to, the heads of the bolts are supposed to be on one side or the other. I just put the things together. Well, I just ran across something that's a little odd. Kind of want to make a note of it so that you guys don't run into this. So on these aluminum rims, I've used these before, and my previous ones were identical bolt pattern to the stock CT70 rims. This particular set that I got on this order from Bart Moto, typically there is the 4 bolt holes that bolt the tire, the rim to the hub, and then in between each one of those bolt holes is 1 bolt that bolts the 2 rim halves together. Well, this particular set uses 2 bolts between each one of the hub bolts. So, unfortunately, my bolt kit that I got does not have enough of these small bolts that bolt the 2 rim halves together. I'm 4 short because this rim took double the amount that it normally does. So just be aware of that, you know, you might need to get some, if you go with these aluminum rims. Like I said, previous sets only had the 1 hole. This one's got, instead of 4 holes, it's got 8. So just letting you know that. A good thing about the bolt kit, it does come with the correct size nuts that fit into these recessed areas here. That's kind of an oddball size outer diameter for that nut. So these are correct. Let's see, I like to put my hub over the end of the table for one of the stars, or whatever you want to call that, sticking out. Let's see, this needs to go this direction, and I want that hub, so I'm going to set it on here like this. And the reason I put it off the end of the table is so I can reach underneath here kind of hold the nut in place while I put it together. So I'm going to go ahead and put all 4 of these in here, and then when I'm ready to bolt the tire to the bike, I'll bring you guys back. As I mentioned earlier, these brand new Bart Moto hubs, They come with the brakes, all brand new brakes. It's got a speedometer gear already in there. Everything's all brand new, ready to go. Yes, I could have used old ones, cleaned them up. In this particular case, I was just being lazy. You know, instead of cleaning the old hubs up, pulling the bearings, doing all that, I just bought these to throw on this bike. Now, I've mentioned this in a prior video where I've used these hubs before, and I ran into the same thing with this hub and these forks. On this front brake, there is a little slotted area right here that fits over this nub, and I call it a brake stay. It basically keeps this, when you apply the brakes and the wheel's spinning, it keeps this from turning with the wheel. So this fits up over that little brake stay right there. Well, on these aftermarket hubs that Bart Moto sells, and I'm sure other people sell the exact same ones, it's not a Bart Moto issue, it's just whoever manufactures the hubs. This opening is too narrow to fit over top of this. I had to take a flat disc grinder and I had to grind down the thickness of this little spot right here. Luckily it's plenty thick enough that you can do that. So I had to grind that down on both sides and get that to where it would slide up over here. There's a lot of meat on this, but I don't have a milling machine to go in there and mill this bigger. So it was easier for me to take it down widthwise here than open this up. So, all right, so now I'm ready to throw this all together. As I've shown lots of times in the past, you want to start by putting your speedometer gear in those two little tabs right there, so it makes sure it locks in. If you've got it inside the brake hub here, it's almost impossible to get that engaged in the right spot. So I like to put the speedometer gear on there first and then just kind of slide that into place. Hold the brake plate from falling back out. There's a little spacer that goes on this side. Luckily, I'm using the original axle and all the parts that came with it on here. I'm hoping this tire fits, this big tire fits in between here. It should. All right, now I got to get everything lined up. Like I said, I got to get this in that there. I've got that brake stay in there. Tell you what, if you don't have one of these little OMT lift tables, comes off of Amazon, they are super handy. I didn't have to lift or fight that tire or do anything like that. These are like 70 bucks. There will be a link in the description to those too if you're interested in that. So I was a little worried, thought maybe we might have to do something with these nubs here that hold like a fender on a different model bike, but I think our tire is going to clear it just fine with no issue. So I'll get that all tightened up. I think that pretty much gets us done in the front. All right. I don't think you guys need to see me bolt the back tire together. It bolts to the hub and everything the same way. When I've got the back tire ready to put on, then we will go back and put it together and just put it on the bike. Rear wheel is all assembled and put together. I need to do the final pieces. Now, I'll mention when you buy these hub sets, the front and rear combo hub set from Bart Moto, it also comes with a brand new dust shield and a snap ring, new brakes and brake plate and all that stuff, just like the front did. I did not get a sprocket from them. I already had a bunch of these sprockets that I worked out a deal with a guy on eBay to get these. I use a 33 tooth sprocket on the rear with these 125 Lifens. There'll be a link in the description to the eBay store where I got that sprocket. You'll also might remember that I used these exact same hubs from Bart Moto when I built my gold bike I took to Moab. And when I put it together, this snap ring that holds the sprocket on that came with the kit at the time was the wrong size. I think it was too big, slightly too big. And I had to find another one here in the shop to get it to work. I've since talked to Matt at Bart Moto about that, and he said that he has swapped them out and got the right ones in there. So we'll see. Hopefully that is, but just want to make you aware. I'm going to lubricate these up a little bit. Sprocket has just the 4 posts on the back. All right, let's see if we can get that pushed on there. With all new parts, it sometimes can be a bear to get everything down in place. Oh, there it gets snapped together really nicely. That's good. No, so it looks like Matt did indeed fix that issue and has the correct snap ring to hold that sprocket in place. Good job, Matt. Appreciate that. This makes that a lot easier. All right, so now I am ready to put the tire onto the bike. Let's see what you guys are looking at here real quickly. Yeah, you're not quite looking at the bike. I just put a used fender on it. The fender that was on the bike when I took it off had a huge hole in the mounting area, and so it was no good. And I just put a used fender on here that I had in stock. It's an area that, you know, I'm not trying to build a really, really nice looking nice looking bike, okay? I don't care if it's got a little bit of scuffs and so forth on it. I'm going to be riding this bike. I may put it down. I may, beat some things up. I would rather spend my money on good parts like, new hubs with new bearings and all that. That's where I would rather put my money, in parts that I need to be dependable rather than parts like a fender that, just need to look good. So it's going to get covered up with tail lights and exhaust and shocks, and you're not going to see much of it anyway, so I'm okay just bolting on a used fender. So I've got to get all the hardware to put the tire up in here. Looks like I need to let my lift down quite a bit to get that to line up too, so we'll get that all set up. All right, I need to put my brake plate. I like to start with the axle. There are 2 spacers. One goes on this side of the brake plate, and then there is another spacer that actually fits up in that hub right there. I like to start by just hanging the axle by the spacer right there. Now I'm using the original axle and spacers that were on the bike. The adjusters are new from Trail Buddy. I don't have shocks on the bike. Oh, come on now. So I should be able to just push the swing arm up and down for the adjustment that I need. Slide in there, baby. There we go. Uh-oh. Got my axle pushed too far. It's fighting against me. Okay. Make sure you put the axle adjuster on the axle on this side before you install it. So you don't have to pull it back out. All right, what do I need to do over here to get that to line up? There it went. All right, then that's gonna slide on there, and then we've got a nut. All right, I need to get the hardware to bolt up the brake stay over here, and I need to get the shocks, and I need to take that lift table out from underneath it now that it will sit on its own 2 wheels. These are just aftermarket shocks that I got off of eBay. No, I'm sorry, I got these off of Amazon. Got them off, they came from Amazon. I liked them because they were all chrome. The K3 did not have painted covers like the earlier models did. It had the chrome covers on the shocks, so I went with, that's one of the reasons I went with these. Kind of like that. Let's see, washers there. All right, so I'm gonna throw these on both sides. Then that will allow me to take this table out from underneath it and support everything. So let me get that other shock put on the other side, and then I can remove that table. I do want to back up just for a second. Like I said, I don't want to gloss over too much, and maybe somebody doesn't know. If you see this shock post up here on the top, see how it has different steps to it? The eyelet on the shock needs a washer. You need a washer back here, because if you don't put the washer, the eyelet will push out of the shock and the rubber part will slide over top of this larger diameter right here. It's not supposed to. So if you use a washer and then slide it on, that keeps the shock from being able to push out the center and work the shock over toward the bike. You do not need the larger washer on the bottom because of the way that swing arm's made. The shock can only go so far, so there's no need for a larger washer. I don't put a washer between the shock and the mount down here. If you do buy these Bart Moto hubs, know that on the rear, you have to move this brake arm. I understand why they put it in this position. You've got this part, the brake stay holder sticking down, so they run it down this way so it's easier to put in a box. But this is the incorrect positioning for this arm. And I should have done this before I put the wheel on, but I forgot. Because on this bike, the brake arm comes across from the top, not from the bottom. So this, okay, we can just take it off a little bit and spin it. So we're going to need to put this up in that area someplace for the brake. And I wanted to get this done before I actually fastened up the brake stay and couldn't get this to move. So I'm just going to kind of loosely put this about right in there, and then we will have to make a final positioning of it when we've got all the brake parts. But now I'm ready to actually, so yeah, see, this is going to go here. So that's actually going to get put even farther up. So I got to get the hardware to put all this brake stay together. While I'm working on the back, I'm going to go ahead and throw the chain on it. I'm going to run a 17T in the front and a 33T on the back. I've said this more times than I can count, but I'll say it again. When you go to buy a sprocket for the counter sprocket up here for the engine, make sure that you get a sprocket that is the right size spline. They make two different sizes on these aftermarket engines. They can either be the 17 millimeter, just like this one is, which is the same as the original Hondas. They also have, some engines have a larger spline that's a 20 millimeter. So make sure you know what spline size you have there when you order your sprocket. I'm going to put a brand new chain. It's I just get it from Amazon. RK chain. As with everything else, there'll be a link in the description of where I got it. It comes with the master and so forth. Come on, get plastic sticking to my hand. All right, and it should be, I usually like to clean these up. They come really like this goopy oil on them. But for the sake of time here, I'm not going to do that right now. I'll clean it later. This one is probably going to be considerably long. I didn't have any shorter ones in stock. Okay, looks like I still have some room. I want this tire back as far as possible. I think maybe that might do it right there. I'm not 100% sure. Oh no, that's a lot of slop to take up, and I don't think if I take it to the next one, then I'd need a half link. We're gonna try it right here first. We're gonna take it off at that link right there. This chain brake tool is just something, again, I got off of Amazon. It's like, I don't know, 15 bucks or something like that. And basically you're just pushing the pin out of the chain. Just pushing that pin out right there, and it should come apart. All right. Well, go together for me. There we go. And I like, on your clip, I like to put the open end to be the following end. I like the closed end to be the leading side. And I forgot to grab some pliers. So, all right, I'm gonna put that on there, and then I'm gonna adjust this up. We may have to even shorten that more. I may have too much slop for what adjustment I have, but we'll find out here in just a second. The next thing I'm going to work on is the foot pegs, and I'm going to use a foot peg kit that I got from Bart Moto. Now, if you go back and watch the video on the engine I'm putting in this bike, there is a link in the descriptions about the engine. I made a big deal about how I got that engine, and I like that engine because of its design. It has the cutout on the clutch side. It has the same clutch side cover as a standard Honda CT70, so that you can use the original foot pegs, will bolt right up with no issues. On some aftermarket engines, they have a different design on the clutch side, and it doesn't allow you to use the foot pegs unless you shim them down or make some modifications to them. Well, even though I could bolt this original set of foot pegs up to that engine with no issues, I'm still going to go with the Bart Moto. And the reason being is it will lower my feet by a good inch, maybe inch and a half. If you look at this on this stock foot peg setup, this is the mounting surface. And then the peg, your foot is actually, you know, what, an inch and a half higher than what the mounting surface is. Where on this Bart Moto pegs, I don't know if this is the right one for that side, but anyway, your foot is now level with the mounting surface. So it lowers your feet. In essence, your knees aren't up into your chest nearly as much as what they would be if I used the stock pegs. So as with a couple other things on this build, you wouldn't necessarily need to do this step if you're going to use the original pegs, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in the video anyway. There's a couple different springs. First you got to figure out which peg goes on what side. And so that is, this peg goes on the right side. If you tried to put this peg over here, see how it puts it at a funky angle? You can't. Yeah. So this is the one that goes on this side. Now you got to figure out which spring it is you need. I believe it's going to be that one. So there's a post that the spring slides over, and then it hooks onto the peg. Then the other hook of the spring is going to hook. Is that right? Am I doing that right? Yeah, so it's going to hook onto the peg here. And then you've got a pin that needs to slide it all together. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Do I have that going right? Am I? Yeah, because this is right, because if the spring pushes it up, the spring will bring the peg back down. Okay, so what you got to do, oh, okay, I see what, there's a little lip, there's a little stop right there to keep the peg from the foot part of itself going too far down. So you've got to pull it up. There we go. And get that pin in there. So now if you hit something, the peg comes up, but the spring just pulls it right back down. And then it comes with a couple little cotter pins to hold those in there. So I got to do the same thing on the other side. Once you've got the feet portions put together, it does come with a kickstand that, with the big tires that I put on it, I may have to modify the length of this kickstand. I'm not really sure. I'm going to go ahead and throw it on here. And then we'll figure that out. The other thing I might have to do is bend the brake pedal. When I go to put this in the bike, because this does set lower, my brake pedal might hit it before it normally hits the stock peg. So I may have to put a slight bend in my brake pedal to get the pad of the brake pedal where my foot is. I don't like it when it's way down. I have to reach down to reach the brake. I like it to be about the same level as my foot peg, so my foot just rests there, and then I just hit the brake. So we may have to bend that. We'll get to that when we get there. I got to go get a pair of vice grips and see if I can stretch that spring on there. Now I've seen guys do this with rope and all different methods of getting that spring on there. I just found it's easier to do it with a pair of vice grips and pull on it. And that seems to work. Now, unfortunately, I think it's all going to have to come back apart because I think this kickstand is going to be a little too short for the bike I've got with the big tires. Now, that tire is lifted up because it's in that chalk, so it may sit down a little bit, but I don't like my bikes to lean over real far, so we'll probably wind up taking this kickstand back off, cutting that foot off, extending this an inch or so, and then welding it back together. Well, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop right here for video number 1 on this bike. My goal was to get it up into a roller, and that's what we have. Now, we still got a long way to go, and hopefully in video number 2, we can wrap this thing up, fire it up, and maybe take it for a spin. But for today, I think we're a good 45 minutes to an hour into this video, which is going to be long enough. So I'll see you guys on video number 2 when we finish up this CT70 K3.